The basketball, both teams with a timeout.
Oh, yeah, let's rock and roll. It's time to go. This is the House of Orange live end of season football show tonight. He's Kerry. This is Frank. We're ready to rock and roll. I feel like we may have something to talk about tonight. What do you think?
There's definitely a few things we could talk about tonight.
I think there's definitely. I had not planned on going live. This dude texted me last night. He's like, we're doing a live show tomorrow night. There's a lot to talk about. I was like, I hadn't planned on it, but yeah, let's rock and roll, man. There's a lot. It's been a wild weekend in Tennessee. It has been wild, starting with, maybe I'm wrong on this, the Boo Carter was thinking of transferring. We got different players teasing that they're hitting the portal or what have you. And then we have the Mike Matthews news, which is still unsettled as of this point right now. What do you make of all, like, what's your opinion about all this? And there's been a lot of reaction this weekend from Ball Nation, and I get a lot of it, but is it just a case of, yeah, we had a bad end of the season, now you have this? Is it overreaction? Is it justified? Is it patience is a virtue? What's your overall opinion on all this?
Yeah, I would just say that that's the times that we live in now with college football. We don't necessarily keep up with as many other teams. I'm sure there's plenty of other teams going through the same kind of stuff that we are. We just don't follow them as much. We don't have we have a stronger fan base than them. So we don't necessarily hear about the other school stories. So it seems like it's just us getting affected by this, when in reality, plenty of other schools are going through this exact same thing. We're just not hearing about the other schools as much. It could be a Tennessee brand thing. It could be the media, how the media views Tennessee in most people's mind, including myself. It seems like the media doesn't actually like Tennessee as much as you'd think they should. It's just kind of how it is. It feels like Tennessee's getting blown out of the water here with this whole situation, this whole past weekend. And it just feels like the transfer portal is only going towards Tennessee. Like Tennessee's feels like the only thing that's getting covered at this point. There's no other schools necessarily getting covered, just players entering the portal and committing. It's a whole mess, in my opinion. I don't have any idea what's going on as of right now. I don't think anybody knows. I don't even think guys extremely close to the program know what all is going on right now. The way the end of the season did hurt, like that was definitely going to cause some issues. I, of course, expected roster change, roster turnover, just like every other team in the country. I didn't expect it to play out the way that it has, which has been pretty surprising. But all in all, it could be worse. It could be better. We definitely don't know right now. I would give it a month or two before you can actually look back and make a strong prediction of actually how good or how bad this past weekend has been towards Tennessee.
I think you made a good point. You said a lot of teams are going through this. And, I've had people ask on videos, say, well, are other teams experiencing this? It's going to be interesting to see, too, on Thursday and beyond with that 5-day window of these teams that get put out of the playoffs on this round, what's going to happen with them. Because there were rumors before the first round that one team had to pay a lot of players to stay.
Yeah.
And I'd seen rumors it was the team that took us to the woodshed, but I don't know if there was any truth to that. There's so much that flies this time of year that it's really hard to decipher what's fact, what's opinion, what's not fact. Most of it's not. And I think that I try not to criticize players a lot, but I don't think our players have helped things
No.
by posting these posts with their eyebrows raised and stuff like that. But I also think too that fans overreact to every little post, and sometimes maybe it. I think especially on like a Twitter platform X, I think people can associated around the program make posts that don't have anything to do with Tennessee.
Yeah, they have a life.
But I think I was bothered more by there were some players who posted the eyebrows, and I think they were trolling. It's not a good time during then. But if Tennessee moves forward with, I don't know, if Matthews hadn't have entered or supposedly planned on entering the portal, would people freaked out as much?
No, I definitely don't think that would have been the issue. But a part of the issue with that was just the fact that we didn't know what all was going on with Nico. It seemed up in the air as if he could possibly be tempting to go towards the transfer portal. Um, I, for one, didn't believe those rumors just because, in my own opinion, I thought it would have been the stupidest decision of the man's life if he did enter the transfer portal. So that's why I didn't necessarily panic about it. But I do realize why a lot of people did panic about it because they don't know how these kind of things works. And it's just how it is, I guess. And they were seeing that Nico's like, there's a chance Nico leaves. We don't know. We have to wait till midnight. This is just a whole mess. Okay, Mike Matthews is now in this all of a sudden. Nobody knows what's going on. Are they both leaving? And Saturday night got everybody worked up. Midnight hits. It's like, okay, we're good. Nobody entered the portal. 10 minutes later, Mike Matthews hit. Like, I put down my phone at midnight and I continue to watch my movie with a smile on my face. Then I get on Twitter at like 12:10, 12:15. And the first thing I see is a Hayes Fawcett post that says Mike Matthews has entered the transfer portal. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Then I stopped watching my movie after that because I was so upset. And then I went to bed. But that's just how it is. That's just how college football is nowadays. We don't know anything. It feels like the guy you trust the most is the guy that's most likely to actually leave, which sucks.
I don't post a ton on my Twitter other than promoting videos and stuff. But I had posted that night. I chose to portal closed. We're good. I got off as well. I got on a few minutes later, and I kid you not, my first post I saw was yours. I think it said sickening.
Yeah, that was I said.
And I was like, "What just happened?" And then I saw the Hayes Fawcett post. Mike Matthews playing in the portal. It's like, you got to be kidding me on this one. And then, of course, it's been a circus ever since. It's come out of the wild ever since. I think it would have been crazy for Nico to hit the portal. Yeah, there were rumors of Miami and Oregon. He's visited these places. Something to keep in mind, he has a brother who was committed to UCLA who ended up signing with Arkansas, right?
Yeah, he ended up signing with Arkansas.
I mean, they've got contacts. So, over their breaks, these guys can go watch football games and not be, trying to, I guess, I've got a word in mind I don't want to use here, trying to sell themselves out. We'll just say it starts with the WH is the one I was thinking of, but it's not an appropriate one to use. But with this team, with this portal, I think, the way the season ended, it was just bad timing. But, if we had been following some of these other teams, Tennessee, I don't follow Clemson as much as I do, even though I'm not that far from Clemson. But I saw Cade Klubnik comes back. I'd be interested to see if I went back and really looked at them, what they lost. SMU, Indiana, they don't recruit at a high enough level that they're going to experience it. I think it'll be interesting to see after New Year's Day. Now you're getting into these teams that recruit at a high level. Do they have the same kind of turnover that Tennessee did along the way? And, like I said, you think it's over, you think we're good, and then all of a sudden that hits. And but to me, is this more of People freaked out about all the wide receivers exiting. They're throwing Kelsey Pope under the bus because guys who left the program are not speaking highly of him. Number one, that's my first red flag because, yeah, you've got an axe to grind on it. But is this really something to worry about with all these guys leaving? Or is this similar to the 2023 mass exodus of the defensive backfield?
I would say that it's just the same as the defensive back room last season. There was only one guy that I've necessarily seen trash talking Tennessee, and that was I think Nate's his name. He was one of the wide receivers that didn't do anything.
The one that they recruited him to get his brother.
Yeah. And Caleb Webb, there's been things that people believe that there's issues with Kelsey Pope because he did kind of make some kind of statement in his live that he went live Saturday night after the transfer portal and everything. But I stayed on the live. I screen recorded all of it just to make sure I could actually hear something. And towards the end, he did point out, because somebody did say in the comments, he did say, I don't have a problem with Coach Pope. Like, Kelsey Pope's not an issue. And he did clarify that. He also did say that he loved Heupel and that everybody loves Heupel. Mm-hmm. So that's a great sign. So you can move on from a wide receiver coach or any coach if you have to, because apparently all the guys still love Heupel no matter what. And I've never heard anybody say that they've had any issues with Heupel. So that's a good sign. But I wouldn't necessarily panic. I think the only person that you could even make an argument to panic over would have been Squirrel White. To me, that's not a big loss. If you've watched the shows this season, I haven't been high on him. I thought he shouldn't have been playing the majority of this season because he was hurting the team due to his injury. And it also just his performance in general just wasn't good enough. But it is what it is. I mean, things have played out how they have. I think the wide receiver room looks great next season if you can bring back Mike Matthews. If you nail the Branch kid out of the portal, the wide receiver room went from really good to possibly elite. And I still honestly think that they bring in another guy out of the portal, just a random wide receiver for some school that fits the scheme.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who enters the portal with, the playoffs. I mean, it's going to go through January 20th.
Yeah.
And then 5 days after. So there could still be some
best guys, like the guys that leave over the next few weeks, like even after tomorrow and after New Year's Day, like those are the guys that leave after that. Those are instantly going to jump a lot of people on the transfer portal list. And those are going to be guys that you want to get. Because right now, if you look at the portal, there's not a lot of guys that you actually want. So change is going to happen. And you also have to look forward to the spring portal as well. And that one's more of that one's when you can kind of fill in your roster or kick the guys out if you need to bring somebody else in.
I mean, I know I'd mentioned Concepcion because he was one of the best ones left in the portal, but let's face facts. We saw him in person. I sat right there on the freaking 45-yard line that night and watched him in person. After NC State hit him early for like a 20-some-yard game, he didn't do squat the rest of the game against his team. So he's going to A&M. Would he have helped Tennessee? Sure, but I don't know. I kind of question on that Branch. I know what Branch's numbers are. With me on this one, you get it. I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. You're going to get a package deal out of. You get a wide receiver who can make plays. You get a safety who was highly regarded as well on it. I'm hoping Tennessee can get it. I've seen people today saying, well, he's going to Oregon. I think it's come from Basilio. I think there was a lot of bullshit flying on that show today based on what I heard. And I'm not against Basilio by any means, but
funny guy.
He's a funny guy for sure. Oregon has not even been mentioned because the Branch brothers visited Georgia. They visited Arizona State. There was a guy, I think his name was Matt Zenith, if I'm not mistaken, that I saw today.
Yeah.
Posted that now more teams are coming in. He mentioned North Carolina, mentioned Texas, mentioned Tennessee involved with them. So it'll be interesting to see where they are. So Oregon has not even been mentioned yet. People are saying, well, the Branch brothers are going to Oregon.
And they're playing the Rose Bowl.
You got to have them on your list for them to go to Oregon.
Yeah.
But I the Kelsey Pope thing, we talked about, you mentioned people are throwing off on Webb. I don't like that we throw off on the players. The one you mentioned, if he's trashing Pope, you get what you get on it.
Yeah.
Handle it in private. Handle it in private. If you got a problem with someone, handle it in private. I cannot stand it when people go to social media to air out their frustrations, yet they never confront, they never message, they never get with the people they have a problem with. So, if the guy who did it had a problem, do it. I know these guys are kids. They're still glorified kids. They're not fully matured yet. I get it. I don't know that there's people that ever fully mature, to be honest with you. But the thing of it is, handle it in private with it as well. And I've seen people going to Mike Matthews saying, well, Matthews probably thought Nico was going in the portal. We're in the freaking 21st century.
Yeah.
There's a thing called cell phones. There's a thing called text messaging.
Yeah.
Are you telling me Mike Matthews doesn't have Nico's phone number?
I'm not sure because, that's weird because there's no reporting on that. But I could have swore that Caleb Webb said that he FaceTimed Mike Matthews after he made the decision. He didn't make any comments after that on his live stream, but to me, it sounded like after he did it at like 12:30, he FaceTimed him and talked to him for like a quick second. I guess just because like Caleb Webb had already entered the portal, he's like, oh, another guy hit the portal. Like I'm going to call him just because I hate Tennessee, kind of thing. So I don't know. He didn't necessarily. I think I'm pretty sure somebody cut him off, and then it kind of just disappeared, and he didn't retouch on that. So I don't know. It's to me dumbfounding that those two didn't communicate. I don't believe that they didn't communicate. That's hard for me to believe. I mean, I feel like if Nico's your quarterback, if he heard anything about anybody on the team trying to hit the portal, I think if he wanted him to stay, he would definitely reach out to you.
I would think so. I mean, I can't imagine there's that much discrepancy or non-communication. I mean, especially when you're looking at, if you're Nico, there were rumors that, what they said on VolQuest, he was meeting with the staff. It wasn't necessarily about money. It was about, hey, what's going on here? Or that's what they said on it. What's going on here? What's happening with the offensive line? What's happening with the receivers? The fact you only at that point in time had Chris Brazzell and Braylon Staley coming back, and at the time Mike Matthews, you want your best coming back on it. And I don't necessarily – I mean, there's some guys – I mean, we got to factor in on this. What was Jalen Hyatt after year two? Jalen Hyatt had done basically nothing.
Nothing.
On it. He'd done basically nothing up to that point. All of a sudden, year three happens, and he wins the Blitnikoff Award. I mean, guys can make those jumps. There's nothing to say that Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, some of these guys would not have made a big jump this year. But, I wish them all the best. I don't have a problem. You and I talked about it as well. Some pretty interesting stuff you brought up behind the scenes, which I won't bring up. But, we all said there are a lot of people criticizing these guys for chasing money. This is life-changing money, man.
Yeah.
This is not $10,000. It's not $100 they're getting. This is life-changing money. And, it's easy to sit here and criticize these guys in this day and age for it. I can't do it. I cannot do it because I've seen a meme. It was something one time where there was one of these motivational speakers like, money can't buy happiness. And somebody on there said, money would literally fix every single problem I have in my life. So you're full of it.
Yeah.
Same way. I got life-changing money. I'm taking it on it. It is what it is. And there's not a lot of people out there. If you have the chance to put yourself and your family set for life, you're going to pass that up. I got to question your intelligence if you do on that one. So based on what you've read, you and I read from the same places. You think Matthews comes back or you think he's gone?
Honestly, I have no idea. I was thinking about this a little while ago. Like, I feel like as of right now, I would feel like he's coming back because we haven't heard anything. If it didn't play out the way it did on Saturday night, where he waited till really late to make a decision, it seemed like, to officially get the transfer portal papers after 10 o'clock from what was being reported. I don't necessarily know. I have no idea what's going to happen. My bet would be that he would come back. I can't honestly say that I believe that because nobody necessarily knows what's going on in this situation. There's guys that are close to the program that are contradicting themselves. One guy's like, okay, well, he's definitely coming back. The other guy's like, he's gone. Like, it appears that he's gone. Like, he entered the portal and then he just backed up his decision and he's gone. So it's all weird how this is all playing out. I don't think it's a good thing that it's played out this way. It could cause some issues in the future if he does come back. Right now, I wouldn't be surprised which way this goes. I would say if he does enter the portal, the two Branch brothers are coming to Knoxville, and it is, I would 90% chance that both those guys come to Knoxville because of that. If Matthews leaves tonight, you're all out because right now you don't have a guy. Like, you can't rely on Staley and a bunch of freshmen, and then Brazel that has to develop to be your main wide receiver in an offense that needs wide receiver play to actually accomplish something. So I don't know. I think that he does come back, but I honestly can't make a prediction that I truly can back up and fully believe it's going to happen.
Do you think Tennessee, and I agree with you, I don't think there's enough out there to get, do you think Tennessee shifts their philosophy on NIL? To me, it's pretty obvious they're investing in quarterback based on what they've got coming in right now. I would argue and venture to say that their list of quarterbacks they have coming in is better than anybody in the country. You got Nico, you got Merklinger, you got McIntyre coming in. As of right now, you have Faison Brandon coming in. Who's going to beat that, especially in this day and age? But does Tennessee possibly shift their philosophy? I'm going to let you comment because I've got to step off screen for just a second on this. But do you think possibly that Tennessee shifts their philosophy more to playmakers opposed to guys who can throw the football on it?
Yeah, I just think that it's definitely weird how this will play out in the future. Nobody knows how this is going to play out in the future. In my opinion, I do think the transfer portal window gets changed. I think that it gets pushed back. So you don't have this issue. In my opinion, it was a pain in the rear end for Josh Heupel and the staff to try to navigate preparing for a playoff appearance, the opening of the transfer portal, getting in guys, and dealing with your own players leaving. I think if they shift the transfer portal window back, which I do understand is an issue just because of the spring semester, I think that's better because then you have time to, okay, if you're in the playoff, then you can focus on just the playoff and your guys, and you don't have to worry about anybody else. And if you didn't make the playoff, then you're honestly in a great position when it comes to the portal of you can have a sit-down conversation with every single one of your players. So I don't necessarily know how it plays out, but I do honestly believe it's the best situation possible is to push back the transfer portal window so that all you have to worry about going into the playoff game or bowl game is you can have one-on-one conversations with your guys and then worry about the game that's at hand. Because if you're in a playoff game, your main focus has to be the playoff game. If you're in a bowl game, different, and you didn't make the playoff, I'm focusing more on keeping my guys from going into the transfer portal and negotiate with them rather than winning a football game, a meaningless ReliaQuest bowl. So to me, it's just weird how this is all going to happen. I think next year will be a lot different than this year. Next year could honestly be the exact same. I would say by 2026, things are running a lot smoother because I think this whole year was a blank show, I would say, because this is just a disaster, especially the way that it's played out for Tennessee. And I don't like just the 5 days. I think the 5 days of once you lose in the playoff or a bowl game, then your players still have 5 days to enter the portal. I think that's too small of a window because it is really hard to have sit-down conversations with every single one of your guys in a 5-day window, considering 1 day is spent just traveling back home. So that essentially leaves 3 days, I would say, because that last day, you don't want to try to fit a bunch of guys in that last day because homeboy, a wide receiver, just got contacted from another school, they're offering him $500,000, and you got to plan with him for $300,000. You then have to bring him in to try to renegotiate a deal, and you may miss out on another guy you were supposed to have a conversation with on that day. So, in my opinion, it's all a blank show, but I think it gets handled in the future.
Yeah, it's let me hit a couple comments. Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I mean, I think in this day and age, though, do teams have to be transparent though? They have to be out in front of this in the case that I'd rather have too much than not enough.
Yeah. You have to be transparent with your team. I think that's definitely something that has to happen. And you may see in the future teams get more focused on transfer portal than they do their bowl game if it continues down the road that's going on. Because you just saw Tennessee. Tennessee's an example of what could happen. Because the wide receivers may have just all decided to leave. They may not have been pushed out. We don't know. So it's weird. Everybody's going through the same thing though, so it's just confusing.
Hit a couple comments here. Billy Cole II says, "What's where I know Kyle Beach answered it for you, Billy, but no word. Yeah, he's still not in the portal. He still has not officially entered the portal, like Kyle said. So, and it has been said too that he's put all his stuff on social media. I don't follow any of them on social media, so I couldn't tell you. But I mean, I would think that's a pretty good sign. But yeah, that is all we know up to this point. I would have thought we would have heard something by now.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Invol, I thought of you and I asked that question about paying less for a quarterback and more for, because this is one of my best buddies right here. Text a lot on it. And he brought up the point about, maybe sometimes you pay a little more for your playmakers than you do your quarterback. I'm not taking his word verbatim on that, but Will Howard, you give Will Howard time and you give him them weapons. You saw what he did the other night with it as well. We're paying supposedly $2 million per season for a quarterback and then some numbers come out that were pretty eye-opening. That Nico was the least pressured quarterback in the conference. Yet we're going to sit here and crap on the offensive line and stuff. I mean, there were some games where he did not have time to throw. Ohio State was one of them. I felt Georgia. I felt like he did pretty good against Georgia, but Oklahoma was one that come to mind for me. But they hit a couple slants. That slant that we can't use, but when we did, normally went for a big gain on it. But makes me wonder, you get a guy who can make the throws, who can manage the game, but you get me some guys who can make plays.
Yeah.
How much difference does that make? But based on their routes, now you were there in person. I know Invol was there in person. So I want to hear this one. You were there for the bowl playoff game. Were guys open or were they covered up all night long?
Some guys were open at times, but by the time they were open, the pocket had already collapsed. So that's why it's kind of hard to draw any reasoning from the game, just because the offensive line performed as horribly as they did in that game. Just the first quarter, I went back and I watched the first quarter whenever I got home from Columbus, and I've never been so disappointed in the offensive line's performance just in the first quarter as I was that Sunday night after I rewatched the first quarter, because it was putrid. From left tackle to right tackle, including Cooper Mays, all five of them, they got whipped. Cooper Mays was the only guy I can confidently say only got whipped one time. Everybody else on the offensive line, they got whipped 2 to 3 times to 4 times to 5 times. So, no, just in the first quarter, not even the rest of the game, because that first quarter was a disaster, and there's just no way to put it. I mean, the offensive line, in my opinion, that's the hidden thing about this offense is I feel like that's the most important part of this offense. If you don't have an offensive line and the kind of offense that we run, you're just not going to see true success. So that's why I do kind of contradict the Nico was pressured the least amount in the SEC quarterbacks, just simply because we ran the ball more than we did throw the ball. And when we did throw the ball, a lot of those stats were screen passes, really quick routes. You didn't necessarily see Nico drop back and then work progressions all the way across the field like you do from other schools. And after basically the Florida game, basically every quarter, Nico was running outside the pocket on design movement plays where he'd shift to his left or shift to his right to throw the ball. So that's why I don't necessarily agree with the Nico was pressured the least, so the offensive line wasn't as bad as we seen, even though we saw how they performed at Georgia and at Columbus.
Did you watch you said quick routes. Did you watch a different team than I did? I
Like
saw
the
slow developing routes, especially
like
in that bowl or a playoff game. But
I'm just talking about like the
talking
quick
about in
wide receiver
general.
like the quick wide receiver screens. There's a lot
Okay.
of tight end screens that developed. I didn't necessarily see a lot this season of Nico constantly dropping back and looking across the whole field, because I feel like when that did happen, the pocket did totally collapse. So that's why I would say that I feel like that stat's a little different, just because Heupel did scheme up some things to where that kind of did help Nico get out of the pocket and just make quick decisions.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Let's hit some portal stuff here. Billy Cole said Saban warned us 3 years ago. I'm kind of conflicted on Saban's word, because I still say, who did Jeremy Pruitt learn from before he came to Knoxville? Saban can sit here all he wants. Who was the guy that was on the game day set that called him out on it and pissed him off?
Shane Gillis, Shane something.
Okay.
One of the
I don't know who
comedians.
that is, but
I totally forgot his last name.
I don't know who it is, but you cannot sit here and tell me. I mean, the fact that Tennessee got in trouble for Mims, who went to Georgia, for giving him McDonald's bags, but yet Georgia was innocent. Georgia just got him out of the goodness of his heart. And who did Kirby learn from? Nobody's going to sit here and tell me Saban was innocent. I don't care what Saban said. Saban's a probably the best college coach of all time. But you can't sit here and tell me at Alabama that there wasn't some shadiness going on it. You mentioned about the time of the portal, when it's open. I mean, I have a problem with it throughout all the sports, because I went back to this back in the summer. Baseball's playing in Omaha, playing for a national championship, yet the whole time they're in Omaha, the portal is open. Players are visiting other schools. I don't know if Tennessee missed out on. I would have to imagine they missed out on some guys. They could, I think, bring them in for the Super Regional when they played Evansville. But you're out in Omaha 2 weeks. The goal is to win a national championship. That comes before a portal, but still, yeah, there is no way that portal should have been open while these teams are playing in Omaha. That portal should not be open until the season is over. If a guy wants to leave during the season, pull a Cam car and just hit the road, you do what you do on that. But the fact that I think it's ridiculous that this portal is open when the playoffs go till January 20th. I know you got to get them in school and stuff, but, you know, here's the one, do a 10-day window in late April, the only time you can transfer, problem solved. I mean, it's not a bad idea. James Franklin brought it up, doing one, moving spring practice back. That way, you know, you enroll, I guess, before summer session. Yeah. They've got to fix it. I mean, that's the bottom line. Teams should not have to worry about being shorthanded into playoffs. Mm-hmm. Like you said, and I agree with you, bowl game, whatever. It is what it is. Yep. I mean, Marshall had to pull out of the bowl because, 35 players hit the portal?
Yeah, but
I mean, there is a part of me that says, wait till the season's over.
Yeah,
with it.
The Marshall one, I will say that one was dignified just because the administration did what they did. So if I was in that situation, if I was a player, I would have absolutely left. Because that whole situation's a nightmare, and I'm not even going to get into that just because how bad it was.
Yeah, it is what it is. Chatsworth, what's up, man? Appreciate you stopping in. Hope you have a great rest of your night. South Carolina did pay Sellers. I'm gonna have a hot take on this one. I still think Sellers is overrated. Great athlete. I don't think he's that good of a passer on it. He did good things. I think he's going to get better. But as far as what he did this year, look, Alabama game. People want to make a case for South Carolina. I thought they were top 12 I thought they were one of the best 12. At the end of that Alabama game, when South Carolina got the onside kick, instead of Alabama doing the old-fashioned prevent defense, they brought the freaking house on him, and he couldn't get a pass off.
He panicked. Yeah.
Yes, he panicked. LSU gave him a lot of trouble as well. I think he's good. I think, I don't know. Well, he will make progress, but I've seen people saying he was the best quarterback in conference. No, he's not. He can't. He's not that good of a passer yet. Not yet. He may be, but I still think Nico's a better passer than him. I think Sellers is a better runner than Nico, but we'll see where it's at here. Every program's shady. We all know that. The tampering. That's my problem with the portals, the tampering. That was supposedly supposed to not be allowed, I thought, but here we are. Tampering's happening along the way.
It's just the agents. That's what the issue is.
Because the agents involved
can get contacted by anybody because that's just not against the rules. So that's where the tampering then comes into play. Even if you can call it tampering, because considering it's going around the rules.
Reese Winters, I was thinking of you when we were talking about Squirrel White earlier. I was thinking of the 70-yard punt over Squirrel White's head. But you think Bruce staying too long hurt development?
I wouldn't say that it did. I think that you still can develop guys with a guy like that that's stuck around the program because he's only taking one spot. There's still other 2 wide receiver spots, sometimes even 3 wide receiver spots on the field that you could take. So it's just I don't necessarily agree with that just because he is the guy. He is a leader. He can teach anybody. He could be a coach. He could develop other wide receivers. So I wouldn't say that he necessarily stopped younger receivers from developing because they should be developing behind the scenes, not necessarily on the field.
I feel like it's almost every year other than maybe the first couple years of the Heupel era. Doesn't matter who we bring as a wide receiver coach. Like guys can't get open. Wide receiver coach problem. This has gone back to former. It's gone back for years on here. People are ready to hang Kelsey Pope. They're ready to run him off. Our fan base is they're dying to fire somebody. Yeah. This fan base, in between the Vols and the Titans right now, if this fan base does not get a firing at the end of NFL season, one of the teams, I don't know if they're going to make it. You're probably going to see a riot somewhere with it. We started trying to cook up drama this weekend, our fan base. People are now we're screenshotting VolQuest premium paywall posts, which I messaged somebody about, said, you can't do that.
No.
But it's like, I don't know. Should we make a change on the offensive staff, or is it, maybe this is a wake-up call they need?
I would say you can make the argument for 3 coaches on the offensive staff to go, that being Joey Halsey, Glenn Ellerby, and, of course, Kelsey Pope. I think you could make the argument to fire any 3 of those guys at this point, just considering the production that they have put out. Halsey, quarterback, he's quarterback coach and offensive coordinator. You can't complain at the quarterback coach kind of situation. He's done good in that position. But at the same time, he's a quarterback coach, but how much is Josh Heupel coaching the quarterbacks, considering, as far as I know, that's Josh Heupel's buddy. He basically coaches those guys himself. So I wouldn't judge him off of how good the quarterback coach job is just because we don't know what he's doing. If he's the offensive coordinator, you can say, well, Heupel calls the plays. Joey Halsey still has a say, just like Alex Golesh did have a say. It may not have been every play call, but I would confidently say that Alex Golesh did call a portion of the plays. And if, from what I've seen, the Joey Halsey plays that he's called just comparing the offenses have been completely different. And there's been no execution, like actual execution, in the 2 years that he's been offensive coordinator. So I would say that there's a possibility you could fire him. I would put him third on the list if you had to fire somebody. Ellerby, that's a whole story in itself. He's produced nobody. He hasn't brought in anybody and then developed them into anything yet. You could fire him right now, and I would be perfectly happy with that. And then Kelsey Pope, I mean, the story is what this weekend is, so I won't even get into that. I don't think they do fire anybody. I do think, I fully believe next season is every coach is on the chopping block, in my opinion. That's not Alec Albion, the tight end coach, and then Rodney Gardner, of course. And I would put in William Inge and then Mike Eckler, just because those guys Eckler's been around so long, and then Inge would be his just second year. But I think next year you either perform or you're out the door, because there's no more hanging on to guys if you don't perform next season like you should.
You mentioned a couple names there. I mean, Banks, Martinez, Eckler, they're out of contract next month. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And we'll play devil's advocate on this one, because I got a different thought. So it's good if a coach needs a wake-up call, he needs to go. To me, you're running Josh Heupel off if that's the case. Yeah. I'm not sitting here saying we run Josh Heupel off. To me, you mentioned it, the offense runs through Josh Heupel. That's the be-all, end-all this offense is Josh Heupel. If that's the case and he needs a wake-up call, that's where you're at. I think Halsley's getting too much blame. I'm not excusing any of them, but I don't. To me, it's been said from the get-go, this is a Josh Heupel offense. Everything runs through him. So now why do we want to blame everybody else but Josh Heupel on it? I think we're setting a bad precedent, too, if we run anybody off after a 10-win season and we make the playoffs. I don't necessarily think we had the toughest schedule this year. I think there were numerous teams who didn't end up being as good as they were predicted to be. NC State, Oklahoma, for example. But I've seen this post before. If you run coaches off for winning 10 games, you run them off for making the playoffs, well, you're setting a precedent to the new guys coming in. Hey, you got to win 11, 12 games for championship, or it's not good enough here.
Yeah.
I think it's setting a bad precedent. It's giving you no leeway for error, not error, on this. And but I think we got to be really, really careful in wanting to let guys go. And I get a lot of it. These guys need to be better. But, I don't know all the answers with it. I've had numerous people come into comments saying, well, it's time to fire Banks. And I know Banks had a rough game. He had a rough game against Ohio State and Georgia. Thought the Arkansas game was a little rough. But still, without that unit, how many losses do we have this year? 4 or 5? We don't win the Florida game.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably don't win the Alabama game. I don't know. There were some others that were questionable as well.
May not even win the Kentucky game.
Now, you may not. Kentucky and Mississippi State played us fairly tough. I think, who's to say on it? I mean, I think we got to be careful, and I'm not above firing somebody. I've never been above it if they need it. But, I mean, I used the Jalen Hyatt example. He was doing nothing, and then he wins Blitnikoff.
Yeah.
Kelsey Pope's got to get some credit. People don't want to give Kelsey Pope credit for that. How much, too, is on these quarterbacks? I think it's been a massive drop-off from Hendon Hooker to Joe Milton and Nico. I just do. That's where we're at. Eric Jones, new member of the channel. Thanks, man. Appreciate you joining the channel. Pretty cool to see. Make sure you guys check out the I'm really hitting up the Patreon. $1 a month. $1 a month could go so far on here. We're not, we're past the holiday season. These commercials about freezing dogs, and I am an absolute dog lover. I put my dog on the screen before, but $1 a month can make a big difference on here, because it costs money to run this thing. for sure. But good to see you in here, Eric. Thanks for rejoining or joining the channel here as well. What would get fans? What would make fans happy this offseason?
Make
Fire them
fans.
all other than Heupel?
No, I don't think firing anybody necessarily would make anybody happy. I think what would make fans happy is nailing the transfer portal. Um, get a wide receiver or two, depending on what happens here, or revamping the offensive line. In my opinion, I think if you nail an offensive lineman or two, then guys start to get happy. Maybe bring in a stud on the defense that could be a linebacker or a safety if one of these guys from one of these playoff teams hit the portal. So it's pretty easy to make this fan base happy at this point. Just bring back Mike Matthews, nail Branch, maybe even pick up another wide receiver, stack the offensive line. I don't know, pick up a random running back that's just going to do a good enough job because there's just not enough depth there, in my opinion. And get some absolute animal on the defensive side that's just a specimen of a human being. There's just it's easy to please this fan base because everything will settle out. We got 8 months till we play football again. It's not very hard you could pick up some random guy from Wyoming in August, in July, and this fan base is going to be happy about it just because we're all going to be desperate for something.
What if saw there's a guy from Chattanooga that's pretty well thought of? Apparently, Steve Wilfong on 3 talked about him. They visited USC. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but one fan base would be happy if something like that happens.
They would
along
be.
the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Branch brothers is a consensus here. I'm kind of like you. I think on our defense, I think our defense was good this year. Pilly injury hurt pretty badly. I know Will Brooks, I thought he was good this year. I thought he got exposed a couple games against the better competition. And I'm not downplaying what he did this year. He did a great job. But, man, you look at Ohio State, though. They got a Caleb Downs in the portal at safety. Who are you taking, Caleb Downs or Will Brooks? And I don't mean that to disparage Will Brooks by any means, but, is Zion Branch that kind of safety? Do you know enough about him?
No, I don't. I think he is more of a depth piece. I don't think that he's necessarily this great safety. I think he's just a package deal that comes with his brother, not brother. He's the lesser of the two, and it's just a package deal. I still think he's good. I still think the kid's good, but he's not somebody that's going to make a massive impact all of a sudden. But I will say the safety position going into next season is something that's very questionable. The only guy that you can Jacoby Thomas, I would say I'll fully expect and believe him to start. Andre Turantanto, though, see, my words are all over the place tonight. That kid, gosh, dude, the Ohio State game, there was one play in particular. He's running up to the line of scrimmage, and they're running back, the Travion Henderson. He's cutting to the left side of the offensive line. Turantan stepping up and is in a great spot to make the tackle. Henderson just blows right past him. I don't even think Turantan touched him. It looked for sure like Turantan was going to wrap him up, make the tackle. And Henderson didn't even make a move. He just ran right past Turantan. And that was the disappointing thing because Turantan was slowing down. He was stopping. He was in great position, and he just went right past him. So, to me, I had high hopes in Turantan going into this season. He was reported to be one of the fastest players on the team. He made the great play in the bowl game last year against Iowa. And this year he has done nothing, in my opinion. He's had one interception off a tip ball. That's the only thing that I can remember of him actually doing this season, which has been pretty disappointing.
I feel like he's kind of been – it's one extreme or the next. He makes a really good play or makes a really bad one along the way. I think something to keep in mind, Kyle Beach brings it up right here. Jordan Thomas will be back. Jordan Thomas was going to be the starting star this year. He come in as a safety, so he can flip back to safety. That one will be interesting to see there as well. Let me hit this Matthew Ford for $2. Appreciate your generosity, Matthew. Thank you so much on that. Greatly appreciate it. He just turned $2 now. So thank you, man. Very much appreciated on here. To me, in this window, what's left? I still think we need a running back. I still think we need a running back. I think it's been because Peyton Lewis had 10 carries for 77 yards in the bowl game. I think people are thinking, well, yeah, this dude's ready to take over. I think he and Bishop will do good, and maybe, who knows, maybe great. But I still think you got to be really careful in that portal, I guess, for lack of a better term, getting caught with your pants down, so-called. I mean, you've got DeJuan Morris, you got Justin Baker coming in. They talked about Morris was really good, like the, what was it, scout team player of the week going into the bowl game, which is like, great, you look good or whatever. Now, obviously, he couldn't play. Can Morris be? I know Tennessee wanted him really badly, but I think that I got wrestling. I got a little distracted here. So I wonder if you need a running back, in my opinion, because you're going in with 4 scholarship running backs.
Yeah.
2 of them are true freshmen.
It's not enough.
No, you got to have more. Cam Selden, which was my guy I was high on, is going to Virginia Tech. Khalifa Keith's going to Appalachian State. Dylan Sampson's going to the NFL. And then you got wide receiver. And I think I just saw a post mentioning this dude. We've not talked about this guy enough. We talk about wide receivers. As of right now, for sure, we know Brazel. We know Braylon Staley coming back. Mike Matthews is not in the portal. We do not mention this one, though. The fact that Boo Carter should play both ways. And I hope it's not some gimmick crap where he just comes in, gets a reverse. They throw him a little screen along the way. I hope let's let the guy eat.
I don't think that's acceptable on Boo Carter's standpoint. I think if we're halfway through the season next year and he's gotten a few plays on offense and it's just a jet sweep, like he may enter the transfer portal in the middle of the season because we're not upholding what we promised him. I think you can line him up at running back and some sets, a running back on each side. You can have him run some routes. I just don't think you can limit his offensive capability. You saw what Travis Hunter did this year. By no means am I expecting Boo Carter to put out the same production for any sort of means. He has to play some role because he will run good routes and he will make catches and he will help this football team on offense. So I just don't think you can just put him in there for 2 plays a game and you basically already know what the play is. I'm fine with putting him in there, not even necessarily throwing him the ball, just distracting it and let somebody else do the job. Because that's kind of the thing you expect whenever he comes in, that Tennessee's going to draw up some kind of play to get him the ball in the backfield, no matter where he lines up, just so he can make something happen. So he could be even a distraction kind of guy.
I think you bring up an interesting point right there. If he's coming in, and we've seen this over the years, go back to Eric Berry, go back when they would use him on offense. You knew Eric Berry was getting the football.
Yeah.
It was no trick. It was normally a reverse, maybe a screen, or maybe a wildcat play. That, to me, is where this Tennessee coaching staff has to be innovative on it. If Boo Carter comes in, you can't just play, the other team, Boo's in, he's getting the ball. Like I said, I think it has to be a mix and match on it. He can't just be a pawn out here, but it can't be some gimmick to him every time. And I think you bring up an interesting point, too. Not only could he come in and play the slot, a lot of people have commented he played running back in high school. Yeah. So let Boo eat. Let him eat. He's going to play star. Let him play both ways. Let him play punt returner because he showed he was the best punt returner on the team this year. That's let the guy play. We saw an innovative, creative staff for the first 2 years, and then all of a sudden, we don't. I still don't know if that was more Alex Golish or Hendon Hooker. I think a lot of it, I've seen some stuff says we don't trust our quarterbacks. They had full trust in Hendon Hooker once he took over. And it took a little bit when he first took over. It wasn't like he just come out of the Pitt game. He looked pretty good. The Florida game, man. And then they started to hit a stride with it. They went into 2022, though. And I think part of it, though, Josh Heupel said before the season, Nico, we expect him to have no handcuffs, basically, fully ready to go. And we got to SEC play, and that was not the case on here as well. What's up, Michael Palmer? Good to see you in here. More rub routes. Got to get guys open. So, yeah, I mean, we've got to – I'm not ready. I agree with Matthew Ford on this. Come on, guys. Some door fees. Yeah, let's get in the door on this now. It's greatly appreciated as well. Oh, I did not hit this one. JL has joined the channel. Thank you so much, JL. Definitely appreciate you on that. Thank you so much for that. Again, make sure you guys check out that Patreon. If you want to check out the membership tiers as well, it's greatly appreciated. It does go to help the channel. So thank you so much, JL. Definitely appreciate you on that one. Michael said he went to the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Yeah. Well, I know the announcers could not stop. I've not had these. The cinnamon roll Pop-Tarts. Have you had those?
No, I'm going to have to try them, though. And I'm not a big Pop-Tart guy.
Much they went on about them.
May have to try them.
In this portal window, to finish, we talked a little bit about it. Does Tennessee really need a whole lot more, do you think? Or maybe just a few guys at right positions?
I think it has to be just right guys in the positions just because you don't have as many roster spots available that people think that we do. We were kind of already full going into this weekend because we did bring in 25 high school players. So that is a huge thing. So you're kind of relying on change within the roster to open up a few more spots. The Caleb Perry departure today is nice because it does open up another spot. So that could be filled in any way that you want it to. I don't see them bringing in a lot of guys. I just kind of expect them to do what they've done in past years of get guys in positions of need. That can be, honestly, I feel like the only position, quarterback, tight end, and possibly corner would be the only three positions I can name off the top of my head where you just don't really need anybody to come in and out of the transfer portal. Everywhere else, I think you could bring in a guy. I still think they need to bring in the yearly defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, of course. Offensive lineman, of course. A running back, if you can. Or I think you could convince a guy that plays for like a Georgia Southern or something just to take a walk-on position at running back and have him actually be a role piece. I don't know if that's even realistic, but I think you have to get somebody because 5 running backs is, in my opinion, a must. My example for that is Texas. If I'm remembering correctly, it was this season or last season where they entered the season, and before the first game, their top 2 running backs on the depth chart were injured, and it wasn't a short-term injury. So if you're down to running back 3 by the time of your first game, and all you got sitting there is, in Tennessee's case, two freshmen, and Morris and the Justin Baker kid, that's not good, and that's a recipe for disaster because at that point you're becoming one-dimensional. Considering how much Josh Heupel does rely on the run game, so it's weird. I think they need to bring in a lot of guys personally, but they don't have the roster spots to bring in a lot of guys because we are still limited from the Jeremy Pruitt stuff until 2028, unfortunately.
That's what Herb asked here. How many roster spots available? And I'm really not sure on that. I've not broken it down.
Pretty sure 82 to 83 is the roster
Yeah.
spots available, because it's 85 is the limit, and we're basically 2 to 3 roster spots a year is what we take off. So I think right now we're sitting at either 79 or 80 as of today, I would say. Possibly.
That include the incoming guys?
Yeah, that includes the incoming guys and kind of the guys we expect to leave. I don't know if that includes James Pierce Jr., because, I mean, at this point, he hasn't announced anything, so we don't know what he's doing. I feel like he does leave, but we don't necessarily know what does happen. But I don't know if you can necessarily go over the scholarship thing right now and then just see what plays out in the spring portal, because you will lose guys in the spring portal. So I don't know if, like, you're allowed to have like 87 scholarship players and then just rely on for those guys to leave, or you just give them the boot.
Yeah. I mean, that's similar to baseball. I mean, you have so many roster spots, yet I think they have, 35, 40 roster spots, yet I think I've been told they have like 60-some guys. Well, there's going to be some trimming down going on in that one for sure. Same with roster limits. They are talking about going to 105, I think it is, on it. So I don't know if that'll be next season or what. To me, I think running back, I think you got to get a depth piece. I mean, whether you get an RB1 or you get an RB3, you got to get somebody in. And like you said, if you're down to running back 3 by game number 1, you're in trouble.
You're screwed.
You're going to have to move somebody on the team. I think we're good quarterback on it with Nico, with Merklinger. I've seen some saying, well, Gaston Moore leaving means Merklinger is ready. That cannot be further from the truth. Gaston Moore wants to play. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with Merklinger. That's one of the dumbest comments I've literally ever seen regarding Tennessee football. It literally had no – I guarantee you Tennessee football would have loved to have had Gaston Moore back for a backup quarterback again next year.
Yeah.
On it. Let's don't overthink it. Merklinger, we'll see. I think people are underselling him. He's not going to be the quality right now that Gaston Moore is on it. I think tight end's good. I mean, you lost Holden Stays, but Kitzelman announced he's back, which was big. Ethan Davis, Deshaun Breen. I think those 2 guys could factor in at wide receiver.
They could.
I really do. With their length, with their athleticism, you could use them. Now, I question, does this staff have the creativity to do that or not? I got to be honest about it. Based on what we've seen the last 2 seasons, we've seen zero creativity unless we're playing Chattanooga or somebody.
Yeah.
That's freaking great. You can get creative against those schools that you're beating the piss out of anyway. Where's it at against these other teams? But I think tight end's good. I've seen commenters saying we should look at a center. I think it'll be Satterwhite. But do you think we should try to get one more interior offensive lineman?
I mean, I'm fine with an interior offensive lineman or a tackle at this point. I mean, I'm fine with
you
anybody.
got Herndon Sanders, hopefully, though. So
what? I mean, I'm not going to be the guy that says Hurd needs to start next year, because I just don't believe that he's got a lot of steps to play or steps to make up. So I can't necessarily give him that starting left tackle spot again next season, just because he was rated the worst on the team on the offense. And that's just not acceptable in my opinion. So he has to play better next season. You can bring up the health issues all you want. I saw a guy that even in the last game we played against Ohio State was down in the set. By the time the ball was snapped and he looked up, 44 in Ohio State was already next to him, blowing right past him. By the time he even saw the man, and he was the only guy in front of him. So the guy is what he is. You can make the foot's hurt, all this. That doesn't excuse just guys running blatantly right past him whenever he just had to take one step to get over there. So
I think it's going to be a wide open job.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be playing if the injury was that bad that he can't take a step to his left. Like that's if you can't move, you're not going to play. And if you're an offensive lineman anyway, you're playing through injury. You're not making it to December and being perfectly fine. There's going to be some portions of you banged up. So that's just the disappointing thing for me, because I cannot hand that man the left tackle spot again next season, just out of the gates, just because of how awful of a season he's had. Just considering you brought him in to be the starting left tackle, you moved John Campbell to right tackle to give him the spot, and then he rewards you the way that he does. And then you can go back to the Oklahoma game where you had the drama with that he apparently set out that game because his agent told him to sit it out for draft evaluations. So it's just weird. That whole position's weird. I think you bring in 2 guys on the offensive line. Everybody could be replaced except the center, because that's Satterwhite's job, in my opinion.
Well, you got Wendell Moy Jr. coming in. I think that'll be a big one. You could, somebody brought up here as well. Let me find it here. Carriage coming back. I mean, he played a lot this year, and I thought he did. Yeah. We didn't hear him a lot, which is a good thing as an offensive lineman. I didn't think Larry Johnson got enough PT. The times he played, it seemed like he did pretty well.
Yeah, he did
extremely well. PT. I would definitely open up that job, but I'll tell you the one spot that there's absolutely no way I'll let anybody overtake it. David Sanders Jr. should be the right tackle, or if you want to make him the left tackle, I don't care. From day one, you get that big of a prospect, you better show you can develop some talent down here, because the people are questioning Glenn Ellerby, right or wrong, on it. I get it. I need to see it too. But that's the one that's open. To me, I'd love to see Satterwhite take the center and roll with it. They seem high on him. I would like to see Sham Umaroff get one of the guard spots and roll with it. That shows me then, we're developing some offensive linemen here. I'm with you. I think it's that left tackle spot's got to be wide open. I didn't see enough this year where it should be locked down. I would not have a problem not getting Josh Thompson from Northwestern, I think, hurt.
Yeah,
but you probably read the same stuff I did. Apparently, LSU was pouring the money into it. And at this point, would you rather have another guard, or would you rather have a playmaker on it? I think at this point you need a playmaker more than you need a guard. It'd be great to have both. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, when the season goes next year, I might say we should have spent that money on Josh Thompson and got him. But wide receiver, you've got for sure right now Brazel. You've got
Staley.
Yeah, Staley. Why would I not know Staley, considering I taught where he was in middle school at? But, those 2. Hopefully Matthews is back, and then hopefully you add. And then you've got Travis Smith Jr., Rodarius Jackson. They're early enrollees. You mentioned it. There's like 20-some kids enrolling early. You better get them up to speed this year. Figure out what their strengths are and play them. Cut this crap of they have to know everything. Move them around. Show some creativity on it. I had a guy I was criticizing on a video, so maybe you should apply. Maybe I should, because I can tell you one damn thing. I would get my playmakers to freaking football. I can tell you that right now.
It would be like recess.
Another $2 here. He said didn't hurt to get a bundle to come here. Yeah, I think he did, didn't he?
Yeah,
I think he got a pretty good amount. And I wouldn't give up on him yet. He's young. He hadn't played much before, but it's a big season for him. It's a big season. Defense, I'm like you. You need defensive line depth. I don't think you necessarily need that alpha guy on the defensive line, but you need depth on it. I'm going to discount linebacker. I think we're good. I think we just have to develop.
Yeah,
because you got Arion Carter and T-Lander, but I'm high on Spillman.
Yeah,
a guy not talked about, he was rated a 4-star, at least by some publications, with Jordan Burns. What does he do? But Jaden Harmon, man, I know you've watched his video. We've talked about it. His video looks phenomenal. The way he runs around, he'll knock the crap out of you. You got Christian Gass as Gass, a linebacker, is Gass more of, a rush end. You got Brendan, is it Ames? Ames. Yeah. I can't remember which one it is. You got Perlotti, who was ranked pretty high. I think we're good there. I think you mentioned I'm good at corner. We got Ricky Gibson. We got Jermond McCoy back. You're going to have Boo at star. You could play Jordan. Jordan Thomas is the X factor to me in that defensive backfield. is he as good as people act like when he was
Yeah.
lost? Because we really hadn't seen a lot of him to that point. But no, I think if you could get a stud safety, you got to do it. I really do. I think we've missed that. And I know McCullough was really good his last year, but that spot, man, was it had been rough for a while.
Yeah. And I would
really
say even McCullough, I mean, he wasn't as well developed as a player as you would like. Like, he wasn't an elite safety guy when it comes to the speed aspect. He did the technical thing stuff, but he couldn't keep up with guys like most wide receivers, because there's a lot of times if you run a go route, you're probably blowing right past McCullough. So he does. I mean, I'm not going to hate on him.
I'm going to let you talk. I got to step off here. So.
You're fine. I mean, I think that McCullough did a great job while he was at Tennessee. He developed into a star, a very underrated guy. He didn't, in my opinion, have the speed that you would want from a SEC safety. So I think that you definitely need to go out and get a guy that can play an elite safety job. And I don't know who that is. I don't know any guys in the portal. That could be the Branch brother that we're, of course, looking out. That could be a guy that hits the portal after one of the playoff games. So the safety spot, I think that's good. I know that Frank doesn't hit the comments as much. So since it's just me running solo right here, I can't pull it up, but I'll still mention you. Kyle Beach, I don't think we hit the Jaden Perlow something. That's how you pronounce it, I guess. That kid's good. That was huge to get him from USC. The kid from Georgia, 4-star linebacker. He's pretty good. That's high on him. I think we brought in 4 linebackers in this class, so I'm really looking forward to that. Spillman's going to be good. Yes, sir, Kyle. And then Will Brooks, he was good. You did everything. You got everything out of him that you could. But yeah, Kyle again, the Branch brother. That'd be huge to have him at safety. So, Frank, I took over for you.
Thank you. You're the man. That's why we pay you the big bucks here.
Yep, $1 million a month.
All right, let's see here. So, we've talked a lot of portal. Still nothing on Mike Matthews.
Nada.
I mean, unless it goes down to midnight again tonight, we'll see on that one. But looking at coaches, you've got Tim Banks, Willie Martinez, and Mike Eckler out of contract at the end of next month. What do you do if you're Josh Heupel regarding those 3?
Just re-sign them.
All of them?
Yep, just make it simple. Re-sign them. Eckler's the only questionable one when it comes to he's doing a great job at special teams. He's also the outside linebackers coach, if I'm not mistaken, or he was.
Yeah, I wonder how much he's involved in that, to be honest.
So I don't know if you change that role, just because I think he fully needs to be focused on special teams, because that was a group that had struggled at times. And I don't know, that could be part of the reason why we didn't have Boo Carter back there until after late in the season. So, because Squirrel White wasn't getting it done. Jamar McCoy looked lost back there. So it took 2 swing and misses at punt return just to get Boo Carter back there, who should have been back there the entire time. Their kick return game was not effective. Like, that was just amazing to me how there was nothing that ever developed there. You put Mike Matthews back there, he had success, and then you never gave him a shot again. So, I guess that's part of the reason why he was pretty mad and why he entered the portal. Now, we, of course, don't know what's going to happen with that. We'll learn in a few hours or in the morning. And that's part of the Branch guy. He could be your punt returner. I don't think that you take Boo Carter's job away from him, because Boo Carter is an elite punt returner. I think you put Branch at kickoff returner. I think you take Peyton Lewis's job and just let Lewis focus on running back and let Branch be the kickoff return guy, because he has the speed to do so.
I don't think you can afford to have a running back at kick returner.
No.
Even if you add somebody.
Especially if you have Boo Carter playing on offense as much, like, you can't put him back there either. Like, you can't have both Boo Carter returning punts, playing running back at times, and then having Peyton Lewis, a running back, playing just kickoff returner. That's 2 running backs that's doing returns. So that's a recipe for disaster, because one of them will probably not probably, does have a good chance of end up getting hurt.
I'd say I don't have a problem. I'm like you. I don't know. I really don't know how involved Eckler is with the outside linebackers. I know it's on his title. But yeah, I think it was a case of we're putting a veteran guy back here because we don't trust the more talented freshman, and it bit him in the ass. Bit him in the ass. Reese Winters will tell us about it. 70-yard over. It's a fact, though. I laugh about it, but it's a fact on it. That the special teams, in my opinion, was the difference in that Arkansas game. 2 big plays. As bad as we played, those 2 still were vital parts of costing us that game. And, of course, the last drive did as well. But Boo's got to be punt returner. To me, kickoff, I don't think you can do a running back. I mean, based on the wide receiver depth right now, you might just have to put a tight end back there to field it. Just put somebody back there to field it right now. Maybe where we go with it. I don't know. I don't have a problem with them bringing all of them back. I do question on Willie Martinez. I mean, we saw the same things people have criticized against Ohio State. DBs not getting their heads turned. And I don't think it's a coincidence that always happens under Willie Martinez. But at the same time,
it happens to everybody in college.
Yeah.
Even in the NFL, that's just an issue. Once you're beat, it's hard to turn around. So,
yeah.
And in all honesty, if you're comparing the Ohio State wide receivers to their defensive backs, there's a huge issue there because Jeremiah Smith's a future first rounder. Emeka
All 3 of them are
a star, and he's going to be a great NFL wide receiver. And Carnell Tate, too, he's going to be a great NFL wide receiver if they can keep him and make sure he doesn't hit the transfer portal like it's been rumored. So
I don't see it. He'd be crazy, too. I mean, what's their quarterback situation going to look like, though?
If he wants to be wide receiver 1, then he may, because we do know recruiting him, Carnell Tate, there was some drama there with him. So,
yeah, Tennessee was in thick on that.
He may want to be wide receiver 1. If he wants to be wide receiver 1, he's got to go somewhere else because Jeremiah Smith's one of the best football players I've ever seen live in person, and that's saying a lot because I've seen Alabama and Georgia play a lot of football in person.
I think with Willie Martinez, we got to look at. Yeah, we can talk about, the defensive backs not getting their heads turned, but who also gets credit for the development of these cornerbacks this year. We just go – it's like I've seen with – I've talked about Jalen Hyatt with Kelsey Pope, and people say, well, if Jalen Hyatt worked his butt off, and come on, man. These coaches have got to have something to do with it. It ain't all on the players.
Who told them to catch that many footballs in the offseason?
Yeah, it takes them all. It's not a one-trick pony on it. And I think it's the same with the defensive backs. But like you said, man, when you're burnt, you're burnt.
Yep.
You're in desperation mode at that point. You're trying to do what you can to keep from getting burnt. And you think those guys don't have pride? They don't want to get burned any more than we want to see them get burned. So I don't have a problem with any of those 3 guys back. I don't have a problem if we return the whole staff intact. But I got to see something out of these offensive guys. That's where it's at because it's 2 years in a row this offensive staff has not gotten the job done. And, again, I'm not a fire them all guy right now because you did just win 10 games.
Yeah.
But we've got to see something there. And, again, I'm kind of baffled. People saying, well, it's time to let Banks go. I'll give you a case in point here. John Jancic. 2015 maybe, pretty good defense. The one blunder of the season, I would say, was the 4th and 15, 18 at Florida. Will Greer hits the guy. But then Butch Jones blundered the clock management on it, and we had to kick a bomb field goal.
When they had 12 players on the field.
Yeah. But John Jancic got to blame. Had a good defense overall that season, did a lot of good things, but that one play, we go get Bob Shute from Penn State, who's considered this all-world defensive coordinator, and he was an absolute disaster. He's in the same category as Sal Sinceri as far as defensive coordinators. That's the worst 2 that I've ever seen in my lifetime. So, yeah, we can go get rid of Tim Banks. All right. But make no mistake about it. Maybe you get better. Maybe you get who I don't even know who the elite of the elite is anymore. But you can definitely go get you a Bob Shoop. You can go get you a Sal Sinceri.
Yeah.
And then people need to be careful with this shit of wanting to fire everybody. And I get it. I get it. People are upset and mad after that Ohio State game. But maybe I don't agree with the game plans at all. But does anybody want to honestly sit here and tell me the talent levels were the same? They weren't.
They weren't even close.
They weren't even close. If that game would have been played in Knoxville, it would have been closer. I still don't know that I see us beating them if they're on their game with it. Ohio State fans, I had a ton of them come in and said the problem was we have that game or two where we just lay an egg. Tennessee fans should know that pretty well. Yeah. Arkansas, case in point. South Carolina 2022. It happens. It happens with it. I think you got to be really careful where you go with it. And I think same with Glenn Ellerby. I get it. But, at the same time, the offensive line was overmanned against Ohio State, who we just literally agreed was much more talented than Tennessee. They got overmanned against Georgia, much more talented than Tennessee. Other than that, I just think we got to be careful with it. And the biggest thing to me is I would like to see in these big games against like the Georgias, the Ohio States, this is the big red flag to me. I feel like our coaching staff plays scared. And maybe they know there's a talent discrepancy. To me, though, you probably watch plenty of Premier League, right?
No.
Soccer?
No, I don't. I really don't watch soccer anymore.
A guy who chose soccer over baseball when I tried to get you out there for it. Now you don't even watch it.
No.
I mean, come on.
Really.
But you get these teams, though, in Premier League watching it, who are bottom of the table. They come out and they sit back. U.S. soccer does it a lot. They sit back letting these teams attack, and they're not aggressive. They're content to get out with a tie or something. Yeah. That's what Tennessee football staff does against the Georgias, the Ohio States. They're content to try to make it a dogfight, and their game plans show it. Just my opinion on it. It's we got to be. I think in those games, I want to see a staff who comes out all out ready to win. Blitz, blitz, blitz. And Banks blitzed against Ohio State. The numbers showed they didn't blitz a whole lot with it. And what baffles me is against Georgia and Ohio State, the weeks before Tennessee played either one of them, Ole Miss, Michigan, respectively, gave us a blueprint. We watered up trash cans and said, we'll do it our way. When you're provided a blueprint, you take it. Yeah, you make tweaks to it to fit your personnel, to fit your scheme, but you don't just totally throw it in the freaking trash can and say, yeah, we're going to do this with it. I think that's the problem is in the big games, we play not to lose. And I hate that philosophy. I've done it as a baseball coach. I played not to lose. And even though it's been years ago, I still, and it was meaningless, honestly, but it's still like, yeah, have some balls, man. Have some balls. And I want to see it out of this coaching staff again. That I saw it for the most part for 2 years. I've not seen it in 2 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think, I know I'm kind of on a little rant today. I was watching Pat McAfee today, and I watched Belichick talk forever before McAfee or Hawk got a word. Belichick was awesome, though. But still yet, it's like I don't know, man. I think if you run coaches off right now and you're expecting I just think in this day and age with security, with more money floating around, you're not going to attract these elite level coaches to come in if you run off a Banks, which I know he's out of contract. Maybe he chooses to go somewhere on his own. That's a different ball game right there if he does. But if you run guys off saying 10 wins was not good enough, that's job security. They're going to come in and say, hey, I'm in a new system. This is a new scheme. If I don't get the job done, I'm going to be out for too long.
The thing is like, if you want to make the argument of Tim Banks needs to be fired, there's articles getting published about Tim Banks not being a part of the coaching staff after the next season because he just got hired to be a head coach somewhere. So it feels like there's the fan base side where it's criticizing every little thing. And from the media side and from the professional standpoint, it's this guy's doing a good enough job to get a head coaching job somewhere. So it's a little bit of, yeah, you can criticize guys for one bad game or two bad games out of the year. But if they've been a part of the program for a few years, it's how has that position group developed throughout the years?
Mm-hmm.
Tim Banks, if you made that just evaluation, Tim Banks' defense has gotten better each season, and that's good enough to keep your job. You look at Kelsey Pope, wide receivers have not gotten better throughout each season. They have gotten worse. That's when you can question job security. So it's weird. I don't think you can question like a Willie Martinez. You, of course, can't question Rodney Garner or William Inge. Ellerby, Pope, and what's the other guy? Halsey. You just got to look at development. And one of those guys in Halsey, you can't look at development unless you're looking at the offense as a whole. But if you're looking at the offense as a whole to make a determination to fire Halsey, then you have to make the same evaluation to Ellerby and Pope. So
and Heupel.
Yeah, and Heupel, because they're all involved in the offense. You can't fire Halsey for the offense not doing anything when Pope's guys aren't getting open and Ellerby's letting a stinking homeless man walk right past your starting left tackle. So it's weird. I just don't think you can make moves right now considering what we've done. I mean, the Ohio State game is what it is. You still had an extremely successful season. And you could say, well, it was an easy schedule. Like, we got really lucky. You still won 10 games. You didn't win 10 games in the same fashion that Missouri just did. Compare us to them. Their 10 games and their 10 games doesn't compare. They played Alabama, and they got ran out of the stadium. We played Alabama. We played an awful game, and we still beat them. So just take what you can. And just don't get ahead of yourself. There's no point firing anybody. There's no point having conversations to fire anybody right now. Give them next season. If they don't prove it next season, then we can definitely have conversations then.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys' contracts are up after next season too.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're coaching for their coaching lives next year. So that's kind of the thing here. Somebody asked about Matthews. I don't think.
I haven't seen anything.
Not yet. I don't see anything on the old infamous X to see anything's come up. I don't think anything's come
Ecstasy.
up on it. I'm not seeing anything on there. That's good news. There's nothing on VolQuest about it, so I think it's still up in the air.
Yeah.
On this, if we lost Matthews, I think
it's weird.
I think the longer it keeps going, probably the better it is at this point, because there's a point in time you had to be in the portal. They have 48 hours?
Yeah. So, it's weird to know when we find out.
Yeah.
Because if the 48 hours is 48 hours to the point of whenever he requested the papers, if that's 10:30, then we should know by 11 o'clock tonight.
Yep.
If it's just 48 hours from the day and they give you the entire day, then it's midnight tonight. But do we find out at midnight? I would assume that somebody,
think so.
Pete Nakos or Austin Price or somebody reports something regarding what happens. If it goes into the morning, it doesn't make sense to me. But the transfer portal honestly makes no sense to nobody unless you're like a Pete Nakos or Austin Price that can fully understand what's going on there. But if it goes into tomorrow morning, I think there's something weird going on because we should know. We should know tonight by 1 a.m. for sure what's happening. I mean, I understand like he could submit it at 11:58, so that's why you kind of got to give it to 12:30 because that's kind of what just happened. So it's weird. I think if we haven't found out by tonight at 1 a.m., I don't know what's going on. Honestly, I have no idea.
I would have to think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that we're good, but is the 48 hours we have to wait till business hours tomorrow morning for whoever to get in the office and look it over? If there is a transfer portal office somewhere in America where they're just sitting there scrolling on their computer, like it's just it's so crazy.
Yeah. Hopefully, if I'm still up at that point, hopefully I don't check it innocently and see sickening. Again, hopefully don't see.
Yeah, I mean, I was sick. I was like,
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. Like I turned off the TV and I went to bed because it made me so mad because it was such a dumbfounding decision. And I'm not going to get on here right now and just rant on the guy because I still think that he comes back. So in the moment, I was pretty pissed, but he can make up a whole lot if he doesn't put that name in tonight.
I think I was up till about 2:30 looking at that crap that night. I don't know what I was expecting, but it, like when big news breaks like that, it kind of amps me up. So I have a little trouble going to sleep. So
it
was like 2:30, and then we got a freaking tornado warning at 7:15 on my phone up here. So it's like, a whole not even 5 hours sleep that night from it. But still, I'm like you. I think if it's a 48-hour window, unless it has to go to Karen in the NCAA office who's got to process it and put it through HR and all this crap, we should know something tonight on it.
I mean, it's supposed to just be a database. So and it's databases that people have, like I know the people associated with the university have access to it. I'm not sure if like the Austin Price has access to it. Of course, Pete Nakos has access to it, who would I would assume report on it. Heck, you may even be a Pete Thamel report something on it.
That's who I was thinking of.
He's reported multiple times on Tennessee related stuff. So it's weird. I mean,
I think Thamel, his thing is more just like team news.
Yeah.
So he doesn't seem to be portal, but he broke the Jeremy Pruitt firing. He's broken.
It's weird with him because he knew guys' availability going into games that hadn't been announced by Brent Hubbs and Austin Price or other big name guys. So whoever his sources is with the University of Tennessee, that guy's rock solid who's giving him that information because he's essentially a part of the program and he's not even close to Knoxville.
Apparently they have a fondness for guys named Pete.
I guess
Nakos, Pete Thamel, because that's kind of funny to me that the national guys get these scoops before the local guys do. And it's like then the local guys will report, well, per Pete Nakos, such and such entered the portal. Thought you were the beat guy on here, That's, I don't know. It makes you wonder. I know we get inside scoops, and somebody brought up a valid point on one of my videos. Wonder how many teams lurk, say on a VolQuest on 24/7 to see news of when one of these insiders on the message board, which is supposed to be a premium paywall, put Tennessee's in good shape with Josh Thompson right now. Well, I'm an LSU guy. I'm looking at Tennessee board. Hey, Rider A has posted Tennessee's in good shape. That's code 4. They're going to get Josh Thompson. We better up our money. I thought it was really the first time I had ever thought of that somebody brought it up. And I said, it's a really good point because, with all these freaking spy gates and crap, there's teams probably looking at all kinds of stuff on there along the way. But we'll see where it goes. I think, I still maintain if Mike Matthews hadn't entered the portal, there wouldn't be the uproar that there is right now. And that's not to say that everybody entered the portal that I wanted them to or not. That's not the case at all. Because, again, I bring up the Jalen Hyatt example. If he would have entered the portal after his sophomore season, people would have said, well, yeah, he had potential. He didn't do anything. You fast forward a year, it's a total different ballgame. Who's to say Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod couldn't come back next year and just broken out?
Yeah.
Cam Selden, whoever hit the portal this year. It's I think you look at it based on what they've done to that point, but what is their potential overall on it? I still think we got to be careful. Yeah, I think the one thing I'd like to see Josh Heupel do is I would like to see him. And I think coaches make the mistake. Butch Jones made the mistake, and I use Butch Jones a lot because I see some parallels between the two. I see Butch Jones, I felt was close, and then he got in his own way. Let Dave Lawson go. He let John Jansen go. That's another one people's not mentioning is Josh Heupel's strength and conditioning coach, Kurt Schmidt, is out of contract at the end of next month. Maybe it's a non-issue, but, does he choose to make a change or does he bring him back? I think that's going to be an interesting one that's not being mentioned enough because we have seen the difference a strength and conditioning coach can make on a program, and I think that's an underrated one that's not being mentioned by much of anyone along the way. But, again, I have the parallels. Butch Jones he brought in Mike DeBoard, which was one of his mentors. They had their moments. I didn't think DeBoard was awful when he was here, but there were times like any coach. I don't know if there's ever going to be a coach who you're not going to question at some point. But you look at it along the way. Butch Jones made the mistake. When DeBoard left, he had a chance. He promoted Larry Scott, who has never called one play in his freaking life. Offense, absolute disaster. Defense, Bob Shoop defense. It had its moments. Overall, not good. Butch Jones, his champions of life, all this stuff gone with it. I would like to see Josh Heupel when Alex Golesh left bring in somebody smarter than him.
Yeah.
I think as a coach, you have to do that. And I think you've got to be constantly challenging yourself. I know you watch guys in action. You feel pretty good about them. But at that point in time, you've got Pope, you've got Hausley, you've got Ablin. To me, this is really their first big jobs. Darrell Sims, I have no problem with them. Ellerby, Ellerby's been with Heupel a while. I get it. These guys, it seems like that's something with every dude that's come in. Pruitt had Will Friend. Heupel now has Ellerby with it, that they're so enamored with them that they won't change it. And maybe we're not seeing things with it. But if I'm not mistaken, like Sarkisian at Texas, as an analyst, has David Cutcliffe.
Yeah.
David Cutcliffe's one of the smartest offensive coaches there is, period, with it. I would like to have seen Heupel. Worst case, bring in some analysts. They're out of contract to do something. But still, in that case, you should have brought in a guy smarter. You should have brought in a guy smarter. That's where coaches, if they're afraid of somebody being smarter than them, that's when that's going to be their own downfall.
Yeah.
With it. That's just the way it is. I think for anybody to progress, you've got to have people that will challenge you for the better. Not just to be a prick, but to come in and challenge you for the better. And it's Heupel's show with it. We'll see what happens this year. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of portal to go. 5-star hearts. That's what we're missing. We don't need the 5-star, but we need the 5-star hearts with it. I had watched. Did you go to any of the Big Orange caravans, like in the Tri-Cities when Jones was on them?
I never went to any of those.
I went once down at the Farmers Market in Kingsport, right in front of Food City. I went, and that was after the 9-win season when we pissed away a chance to win the SEC East. Should have been no excuse for it. And here he's up there boasting about 5-star hearts and champions, like 9 wins, and it's like, I was livid. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Not enough.
So, we're going to find out with Heupel how long he really wants to be here. And I've had people say run them all off. Yeah, let's bring Jeremy Pruitt back. Let's do that. Let's be real careful with that. But at the same time, you hit that point. Do you want to be here for a while? Or are you riding it out right now? And I think something we might want to watch out for. Nobody's mentioned. What happens next year if Brent Venables gets canned? at Oklahoma and they come calling for one of their favorite sons to come home. Especially gets enough, and especially if we see improvements on it. I think we got to be really careful with it because we went through years of incompetence, years of basically misery as football fans. And who knows? It may be a non-factor along the way. But I think you got to look at every scenario that anybody, including a coach, including a player, could leave at any point in time. Now, we've seen it happen.
In my opinion, I think it's more of a Heupel decision in that case because if they're firing Venables, then they're in a situation where they need anything they can get, and they'll cut. They don't care about past history or past ties, just considering their program's falling apart and they're new to the SEC and they're going to turn into a bottom feeder program if they're not careful. So in my opinion, I understand that he has the history that he does at Oklahoma, that it's kind of some turmoil and it's up in the air, and he doesn't necessarily have the greatest relationships with some of the guys higher up in the administration there. They could put that to the side and make an offer to Josh Heupel. It's just up to Josh Heupel to make that decision because that's how I view that playing out. I think that they offer him a job because they don't care about the past. They just need to get a coach that's had success, that's going to give them success. They're going to do everything they can to get Josh Heupel. At the end of the day, it depends on what Josh Heupel wants to do here. If Tennessee is willing to make a huge jump in the contract, and just overall, how committed is he to this university? How committed is he to this program? I mean, in my opinion, I feel like he's as committed to Tennessee now as he would have been at Oklahoma while he was a quarterback, and that's just win a national championship. He did it at Oklahoma. He wants to do it now at Tennessee. I don't think there's a team in the country, in my opinion, that could get him out of this job right now.
You could see it. Yeah, I mean, I guess I played devil's advocate. Conzo Martin got to the Sweet 16 under Tennessee. Oh. Tennessee fans signed the petition to get rid of him. Cal come calling. He left on it. I have never – it's never bothered me that he did. But still yet he picked an opportune time to do that. Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. Fans were getting tired of him. Texas A&M come calling with a ridiculous amount of money, and he left on it. If fans are – a little bit of unrest settles in. You never know. Maybe
that makes
the amends.
That to me just makes the Kentucky situation just so much more crazy. How they've just stuck with Stoops and they've just built it into their brains that we're a basketball school. These are the best years of their football program. Okay, well, you're going 5-7 some years, and like this year, you're going 4-8. And on a good year, you're winning 9 games, and that 9th win came in a bowl game. So is that good enough? Do you ever want to compete for a college football playoff? Because right now it appears they don't. And that's a coach that seemed to want to leave to go to Texas A&M, and then you just let him walk back in the door. He has a horrific season this year, and there's just no conversation there. I don't see how that man still has a job. Yet there's no conversation of him losing it.
No, it feels like he almost – he does a lot of Butch Jones stuff with his comments. It's like he just fires the fan base up that
and
much
his
more.
Decisions on the field too. Some of the decisions he makes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you. I don't see how Kentucky. Well, the worst thing that happened to Kentucky was Texas A&M come calling for Stoops, and Kentucky panicked thinking they couldn't find better, and they signed him to a big extension. And I think it was kind of like with Calipari. Kentucky fans were ready for him to go, and they didn't try to re-sign him. They went out and got somebody else who's trying to reinvigorate the program. But it's there's always a fine line with it all, and I get it, man. There's stuff that needs to be fixed in that program, but a 10-win team made the playoffs. 9 wins the year before. 11 wins the year before that. We've not had those kinds of years. We've got 30 wins in the last 3 years. There's coaches that didn't even reach 30 wins during their tenure.
Yeah.
Here. And I'm not one of these. I think if you see a point, you've hit your ceiling. Case in point, Mark Richt at Georgia. Yeah, can we go to the next level? Mark Richt was a good coach at Georgia, but he hit a ceiling. He could win the SEC championship. He wasn't getting you any further than that. And it was hit and miss. Whether they went out and got Kirby Smart, and you see what's happened. Then went out and got somebody who learned from Saban all the tactics, every one of the tactics as well. Yep.
We've had more of an update from Austin Price on the Mike Matthews situation, if I'm allowed to speak on it.
Go right ahead.
Austin Price has been trying to figure out the 48 hours thing with the whole deadline. He said he just had to request the paperwork by midnight. Then he had so long to fill it out, and that's why things haven't been posted up through today. Austin Price then later on said that he doesn't know, even himself, the whole situation, how it pans out. He said, I've been trying to get answers to all that himself, being Austin Price, and there's been no answers. As of an hour ago, 2 hours ago, somebody said, how's the dialogue been with Tennessee? I'm assuming that's referring to Mike Matthews and Tennessee. Austin Price said good with both Tennessee and VolQuest. So I'm going to view that as a good sign in the Mike Matthews situation. But of course, we don't know, because we of course thought that Mike Matthews would have never entered the transfer portal and that things were good and it was just a rumor and he ended up hitting it. So take that with a grain of salt. That is a good sign, in my opinion, of what will happen. But of course, we don't know exactly how this turns out.
I think if it comes down to NIL, as some have suggested, I think NACO suggested that too. It's an easy fix. Paying money. You need guys. I mean, to me, you've only got yourself to blame for not playing anymore this year while you let guys who were dropping passes left and right continue to play. And we hear, well, he can't block. Mike Matthews was to me, the best blocker of the wide receivers.
Yeah.
So let's throw that one out the window. When he got the ball in his hands, he could make plays. That was a drop the ball by the coaching staff.
Yeah.
This year. You've got 5 stars playing other places. We come Tennessee, though, we got to earn our stripes to get on the field. They're going to have to change that, or this portal, they're going to get burned heavily one of these times if you don't start playing. I get so sick of this. Well, he's a veteran. He knows where to be. Great. It does not matter if you know where to be, but you still can't make the play.
Yep.
I'll take a freshman who's feeling his way in, who's got the ability, who can maybe overcome an error, opposed to a veteran who's a lot less talented, knows how to be there, but can't get there.
Just look at what Tony Vitello's done with the baseball program. He's done that. He's taken risk with freshmen or sophomores that really haven't seen the field, and it's panned out when he's had other options to play there. He's had veteran guys that have been a part of the program that have seen a thing or two, but they didn't necessarily have the same talent as other guys. So he went with the young guys, and it's paid off in almost all the situations. And I think that will change with Heupel. I will say I'm not going to say like there's a possibility it changes. I think it does. I think the Blue Card situation, the Mike Matthews situation changes that. If you got a freshman that's talented, you cannot keep him behind a guy that's just getting the job done. It doesn't even have to be jump up to a starter role. It could be increase them by 5 reps a game. Just something to please him, please his parents, please everybody. He doesn't even have to perform good. It's okay. That's just how college football is going to work from now on. You may be playing a guy that's a freshman, that's a 5-star, that's not doing what you expected him to, but you still have to play him, because if you don't, he's hitting the portal come December. So it's just how it is nowadays.
I mean, to me, I've said it on here numerous times. I don't know if these recruiting outlets are the ones that they don't evaluate well. To me, a 5-star is an instant impact guy.
Yeah, has to be.
I don't care what they do for. I do care, but if you're a 5-star, to me, that means you're ready to come in from day one and be a factor. It's puzzling to me, and we've seen it for years with Tennessee. It's rare you see a true freshman come in and make a big difference, because we've got a more experienced guy in the program, yet you see teams with more talent playing big time 5-star freshman coming in. I don't know why that is with tennis. Hell, we've seen it with basketball. That the number of 5-stars that Barnes recruits to be these one and done guys, and they do nothing. Basically, I mean, they're okay, but they don't look like 5 stars. None of them have. You mentioned baseball. I mean, even baseball last year, I mean, they started the season off with Christian Mort shortstop and freaking Bradkey Laurie at second base. I mean, that, and I have a problem with that guy just because, what was it? One of the last games, he sat there and took pitches and then stood there like he was baffled that he struck out. It's like, dude, get off the field. Swing the bat.
He couldn't. And even like the bat was awful. He could run fast and play defense, but the bat was just horrific. And they kept on giving him chances. Yeah. And that dumbfounded me the entire season.
Thankfully, they went with Dean Curley, and the rest is history. Dean Curley will be your shortstop. Even though he's not the best shortstop on the team, I can tell you a guy whose initials are AA is a better defensive shortstop, and it's not even close, but still, it's going to be Curley. I mean, me and M. Vol were at the Smokies Stadium for that scrimmage. Curley made some plays where everybody's like, hey, look at this here. But still, yet you got to play your guys. I mean, you mentioned baseball. You're going to have a stud freshman in the rotation on the weekends, guy who we were lucky to get this year. You're going to have a bunch of stud freshmen contributing. You have to, or they're going to the portal. That's just the bottom line. And that, I don't even think it's as much as they're holding a coaching staff hostage. It's, I think they're pretty realistic about it. I think they're pretty realistic. If you're Mike Matthews, he should have been upset he didn't play more this year because we watched a bunch of guys drop a lot of passes this year, and one of them hit the portal, who he should have been in over. That's just the bottom line. Yep. Go
Another
ahead.
Update. This one's Jackson Moy. He tweeted 6 minutes ago. Thank you, Lord, for an injury-free season. Grateful to be a ball. Rocky Top, let's do this. So that would 1,000% mean that he is fully back for next season. So no drama surrounding him. So great to see somebody post something and you ain't got to worry about the kid.
Well, it's like, it's good. It's kind of funny to me now we're announcing we're back and stuff, but I've seen people freaking out earlier over Staley's data post. Not every single post is necessarily about football. Not everything's cryptic.
No. They have lives outside of football.
They are entitled to post things that do not involve football, and the player can respond. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's coincidental, but it is what it is. But Jackson Moy will be a big part of it.
Huge part.
I personally think we'll be more talented next year if we fix this wide receiver spot.
Yeah. And then it appears that Bryson Eason's for sure coming back. And then
Bailey.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily heard for sure that Dominic Bailey's returning, but as of right now, I assume he's coming back. So that's huge in itself. So I think with those two guys, you add in Moy as well. Just those three guys are good enough to win you a few football games. So the defensive line in a whole, I love you, Rodney Gardner, because that's not a position group that we expected to be this good whenever we hired Heupel. Here we are in basically year 5, and that's the best position group on the team. So hats off to that group.
Well, wasn't Gardner hired before Heupel was even hired?
There's a possibility because he would have been.
People were throwing off saying, well, you should let the head coach hire. Yeah, let's turn down the best defensive line coach in the country.
Yeah. Was it? It was him and, what's his name? Kevin Steele? Was that the two guys?
Yeah.
That were kind of like controlling things before Heupel got here. And then, of course, Heupel let go of Kevin Steele, but kept Gardner. I bet he probably got to campus, saw Gardner, was like, I don't know how you're here. I don't know why you're here. You're staying. I know your track record. Everybody in football knows Rodney Gardner and how good of a coach he is. So that had to be a blessing for Josh Heupel to come to campus and see him.
Yeah. Our fan base, sometimes the comments baffle me. Like, let's turn down Rodney Gardner, who people wanted back for years. Yeah. Years, because he was there in the late 90s. He was a big part of getting like the Deion Grants and Jamal Lewis. I think it was Cozy Coleman. I don't know if you know all those guys or not. That was a little before your time, but he was a vital part of that national championship 98 team. He was an offensive line coach then.
Mhm.
And then he left to go to Georgia. Coincidentally enough, guess who started rolling in recruiting? And he was a lot of times recognized as the big recruiter in there as well. I expect on this one, Joshua Josephs, I meant to hit that, to fully be back.
Yeah.
And
Anything.
I think
Uh,
he was very good this year.
He was
very
really
good. You need him back. You need Caleb Herring to take a step. I'm curious to see what Jordan Ross does. There's a lot of guys on that defense. I think overall in talent, I think there's a question at safety. Can Jordan Thomas fill it, or can we fill it in the portal? Corners, you should have 2 lockdown guys at corner. You got Boo at the star. That's the best cornerback trio we have had in a long time in Knoxville. Safeties, maybe a little bit to be desired. Maybe could be better. Linebackers, a lot of potential. Gots to be better. Defensive line, you're still going to have a ton of talent. And plus, they recruited really well again. There are some studs coming in on that defensive line with Campbell, Dye, Lofton, House. So they're not rebuilding, they're reloading on that defensive line. You get your offensive line, which I honestly think has a chance to be better next year. I think there's more sheer talent on that offensive line. Just my opinion. I'm not saying they'll be better, but it is what it is. What Kerry talked about it a minute ago, Chuck said that there is dialogue between Tennessee and Matthews. Nothing's official either way yet. So sounds like it's everything's positive.
Yeah.
So far on it. We're hitting 2 hours on here. I think we're going to wrap up about this point. You got any final thoughts? Devin Hobbs. I thought about Hobbs. He was a big time recruit coming in. Tyree West will be back. Yeah, that defensive line's going to be loaded with talent again. But any final thoughts before we get out of here?
It appears we're heading in a really good direction with the Branch brothers. I would say right as of right now, it appears that that's a great direction we're heading on. Of course, a long way from nailing them to getting them here.
Got to get them on campus first.
Got to get them on campus. That could take a few more weeks to do that. So as of right now, things look good. We also said the same thing with Josh Thompson. We saw how that turned out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as of right now, we desperately need wide receiver help. So we would roll out the red carpet for them. So it appears good situation in that. Mike Matthews situation, nobody knows. It appears good. Guess we'll find out by this time tomorrow night. At least we can go to sleep tonight if we haven't heard anything, knowing that by 9:50 or 10 o'clock tomorrow night, we'll know. So you just got to be patient. It is what it is. It's the era nowadays. If we keep Mike Matthews, all is well on Rocky Top. You can peacefully enjoy your New Year's and go into a burrow for a few weeks.
Yeah, let's hope so. Just when we think that, something else flies off the charts. So, final thought on here as we wrap up the new year. January 1st, 2024, 12:01 a.m., I launched this channel. I've said this numerous times. I have to say it again with the year ending on it. My expectation was if I can hit 100 subs a month, October, hit 1,000, we get to 1,200 by the end of the year. We are right now at up to date. Oh my gosh. We need 2,666. You got to be freaking kidding me. But I was hoping I wanted to get to 3,000. I'm good with it. Not getting to 3,000, but I'd said going into the week, I was like, I'm hoping we'll hit 2,500. And then all of a sudden, I got to play this one because this is the facts right here. I put this one out on Chaz Watch. I was on it. Just remember this one, right? Let me see if I can get this to play. Take us off here a minute. When it comes to portal stuff, never doubt. Cool hand, Frank Rock. Chaz Lanier is the ball. Here's to you, Chaz. Just never doubt the portal, man. The portal king. right here. We've rolled on it, but just to wrap up and quit rambling on here. Thank you to each and one of you so much on here. It's been a killer year. We're pushing on 2,700. This dude's in the fold now. We've had some pretty good conversations. We'll see where we want to go in 2025. We're not even on baseball yet. And
that's when it gets
that is my thing. Baseball, you want baseball, this is your place for it. I'm going to be honest. This is a fact. There's nobody better on it. Nobody better on baseball with it. We're going to do a lot of fun things. Have this dude in the fold. I like the Pat McAfee. I know people's really indifferent on Pat McAfee. I like him, and I like it. He has a bunch of dudes just having a good time, just full of crap, say what they want. I would love to have the Pat Mac have a bunch of guys or women. It doesn't have to be guys, just a bunch of people talking sports, knowledgeable, having fun. That would be the goal. Where we go in 2025, we'll see. But this has been a killer year. Phenomenal. Surpassed my expectations by so much, and it's not possible without all you guys. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you. He's Kerry. This is Frank. We're rolling in 2025. Last but most certainly not least, no matter if it's good days, if it's bad days, it's always a great day to wear the orange.